الله ونعم الوكيل ونعم المولى ونعم النصير. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله قاسم الجبارين مبير الظالمين مدرك الهاربين، والصلاة والسلام تحية والإكرام على النبي الأمي المكي المدني الهاشمي الذي اسمه في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين، ورحمة الله على محبيهم ومواليهم وشيعتهم أجمعين، ولعنة الله على آدائهم وقتليهم وواصل حقوقهم وكيل فضائلهم ملعونين. أما بعد، فقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم: لو كان أقل سورة أو رجلا لكان الحسن. For the happiness of Hazrat Zahra Marzia, for the enlightenment of the graves of your Mal'umeen, of the graves of the Shuhada, Ulama and Siddiqeen, for the safety of the Zahireen of Sayyid al-Shuhada, and for the safety of the Azadar of Sayyid al-Shuhada, for the safety and the hastening of the reappearance of Hazrat Baqiyatullah al-A'zam Awan al-Fida, please recite Allah the Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who is Rahman and the one who is Rahim. It's an honor to be back here with the brothers and sisters after such a short time, I think 2 weeks maybe. But it's good, seeing as though it's just not IUS now, there's a lot more brothers. And it's a very good initiative that you've started, bringing the communities together. Inshallah, we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that it's successful and the community can come together and break down those boundaries that separate us, that cause rifts within us. And the biggest one of those is the one of race and racial superiority. Inshallah, Allah will be by our side as we help to destroy these boundaries within our society. The topic that I've been given today is the life and times of Imam al-Hasan, or as the poster said, the Prince of Patience. When we analyze the life of the Imam, we realize that in fact we know very little about him. Yet the fact of the matter is this, that not a single one of us would be sitting here today in this gathering or in any of the gatherings that we attend had it not been for the actions of Imam al-Hasan. The personality of Imam al-Hasan is a personality that we overlook. We have within our times big imams and small imams. You know, when it's for Sayyid al-Shuhada, we all fill up the masjid. When it's for Amir al-Mu'mineen, we fill up the masjid, there's nowhere to sit. But when it comes to Imam al-Hasan, we struggle to justify whether or not we should turn the heating on or not. When it comes to Imam al-Hadi, for example, we find that there's only a handful of people. This is our own issue and it's not something that I want to discuss. And without digressing too much from the topic, but the personality of Imam al-Hasan is a personality that we often overlook. And it is the plot of the enemies of Ahlul Bayt, the plot of the enemies of Islam, that we overlook the personality of Imam al-Hasan, or in fact we downplay the actions of Imam al-Hasan to the extent where we think that, Imam al-Hussein was the one that actually saved Islam. He was the one that actually came forward and, he is the defender of Islam, whereas in reality, Imam al-Hasan put those cogs into motion. And the Holy Prophet of Islam, as Brother Musa said previously, gave a lot of importance to Imam Hasan. When the child is born, the Holy Prophet of Islam, the first thing that he says as he sees the child, he says, Hati ibni, give me my son. Amir al-Mu'mineen is there. He could have said, Ali, give me your son. Hazrat Zahra is there. He could have said, Zahra, give me your son. Give to me my grandchild. No, instead he's saying, pass to me my son. They're stressing the importance. Because the Holy Prophet of Islam doesn't just do anything out of his own will. The Holy Quran itself says that he does only that which is revealed to him. Later on we find other incidences. For example, one within the books of hadith comes that Anas ibn Malik was, he says that I went to the masjid and I saw that Imam al-Hasan was running around the Holy Prophet. He was climbing on the Prophet. He was just as a child does. So he said that I went forward and I took the hand of Imam al-Hasan and took him away, thinking that he was annoying the Holy Prophet. The Holy Prophet looks at me. He says, Ya Anas, da'a ibni wa thamarata fu'adi. Let go of my son and the apple of my eyes, or that part of my heart, the part of me. And then he says, Inna man adha'u hasanan faqad adhani. The one that has upset my Hassan has upset me. And this throughout the life of the Holy Prophet and throughout the childhood and through adulthood, this point of highlighting that they were the sons of Rasulullah was very prominent. At every point, the Holy Prophet would say, they are my sons, they are my sons, they are my sons. And there was a reason behind it. Because the Holy Prophet of Islam knew that the moment that his eyes closed upon the world, then Banu Umayyah and Banu Abbas later on, their sole aim would be to remove this title from Ahlul Bayt of being the sons of Rasulullah. And they did everything within their power to remove these titles. Look towards history. Look at someone like Muawiyah. Muawiyah is narrated to have said to his slave that anyone you hear say that Hassan and Hussein are the sons of Rasulullah, tell me, and I will punish them. I will make them subject to the punishment. Why? Why was it that they were trying to suppress this relationship? Because it's easier to oppress them. It's easier to remove the rights from them if they are known as the sons of Ali. But if they are known as the sons of Rasulullah, it's very difficult for those people within society to oppress them or take away their right. And this is why we see that so many people would debate with the Imams, try and remove this title from them. And the Imams instead would reaffirm this title in every one of their khutbahs. Look at the khutbah of Imam al-Sajjad, look at the khutbah of Imam Hasan alayhi salam. Amir al-Mu'mineen has just passed away. Imam al-Hasan is giving the khutbah in the masjid of Kufa, and the opening lines of that is, I am the son of Rasulullah. So they're trying to reaffirm that fact, trying to highlight this fact to the people. And for many years this whole issue continued. And there's a very beautiful incident that takes place very later on during the time of Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi, may the curse of Allah be upon him. Hajjaj was a true barbarian. And he was known for the amount of dhulm. Hajjaj, his day would not be complete until he had killed a follower of Ahlul Bayt. And he didn't just kill small followers of Ahlul Bayt, people like Kumayl. Kumayl, he cut Kumayl to pieces. This is Hajjaj. Hajjaj is the same one that kills Ibn Zubayr as he's holding on to the Kaaba. Catapult, throws a stone at him via catapult and kills him in the Kaaba. This is Hajjaj. The same Hajjaj, the narrator of this incident is Someone by the name of Amir al-Sha'bi. Amir al-Sha'bi says it's the middle of the night and there's a knock at the door. I open the door and I see that it's the soldiers of Hajjaj. They say, Hajjaj has summoned you to the castle. He says, okay, give me a couple of minutes, I'll come with you. He says, I went back inside. He said, if this, in the middle of the night, Hajjaj has called me, that means I'm dead. So he says, I did wudu, I prayed 2 rakat namaz, I gave my will to my children, and then I came out of the house with the soldiers of Hajjaj. He says, I went into the court of Hajjaj. Hajjaj was sitting upon his throne. In front of him was a leather mat and a sharpened sword. I walked in, I looked at the mat, I looked at the sword, I looked at Hajjaj. Hajjaj turned around to me and said, Amir al-Sha'bi, do not be afraid, it's not for you. Come and sit next to me, I want you to witness something. So he says, I came and sat next to Hajjaj. And Hajjaj signals to his guards that send in the prisoner. So someone comes in covered in chains, his head is lowered, and he's brought in front of Hajjaj. Hajjaj says to him, you are a Shia of Ahlul Bayt. I want you to prove to me that Imam Hasan and Imam Hussein are the sons of Rasulullah from the Holy Quran, but you are not allowed to use the ayah of Mubahila. Prove to me that they are the sons of Rasulullah from the Quran without using the ayah of Mubahila, or else your head will be cut off. Amir al-Sha'bi says that I was Hafiz of Quran myself. I searched the whole Quran within my mind and found absolutely no way that this man could answer that would help him. For a moment, he says, the man just stood there. Then he raised his head, and when I looked at his face, I realized that it was the companion, Sa'id ibn Jubayr. And now I became even more afraid that this is Sa'id, they're going to kill him. He has no answer for it. Sa'id ibn Jubayr smiles and begins to recite ayah 84 of Surah Al-An'am. The part where it says, and from amongst the descendants of Nuh, wa Dawood, Sulaiman, Ayyub, Yusuf, Musa, and Harun. And then he turns towards Hajjaj and he says, Hajjaj, you read the next ayah. This is the courage of a Shia ghalib. Turning towards an oppressor like Hajjaj. He says, Hajjaj, you recite the next ayah. And Hajjaj continues the ayah. He says, وَزَكَرِيَّا وَيَحْيَا وَعِيسَى. At this point, Sa'id ibn Jubayr looks at him and says, Hajjaj, stop. If after 27 generations, Isa can be the son of Nuh through Maryam, what stops Hassan and Hussein being the sons of Rasulullah through Fatima to Zahra? At this point, Hajjaj became very happy. He says, yes, you fulfilled my request, you've passed the challenge. So he gives to him loads and loads of money from the treasury. Amir al-Sha'bi says, the next day I went looking for Sa'id ibn Jubayr to see how he was spending this money that he had got by defending the right of Imam al-Hasan and Imam Hussein. He says, I went in, I saw him standing in the masjid, distributing it amongst the poor, saying, come and take this, this is the sadaqah of Hasnain Sharifain. These are the followers of Ahlul Bayt. These are those people that have defended Ahlul Bayt with their lives. Being at the point of death and still having the courage to answer. That's what we need to create in our lives, that sort of courage to defend the Ahlul Bayt. Would we be able to defend the Imam in such a way? Do we have the knowledge of the Quran in such a way that Sa'id ibn Jubayr had? Do I have that love for the recitation of the Holy Quran and the pondering over the Holy Quran that these great personalities had? So the point that I started with was that they were trying to remove this title of the son of Rasulullah. And the reason why was that it was easier to oppress them. And these things continued, and you can research into them yourselves. But along with trying to remove this title, one of the main things that Banu Abbas especially did was the defamation of Imam al-Hasan, in order to solidify their position after overthrowing Banu Umayyah. So they're starting there, defaming Imam al-Hasan, number one, about the marriages, and it's something that I don't want to go into, about the marriages of Imam al-Hasan, and also about the peace treaty that Imam al-Hasan signed with Muawiyah. In fact, it wasn't just those that came afterwards, those that were there at the time of Imam al-Hasan. This is interesting. That those that were there, that were the Shi'as of the Imam, that were Shi'as of Amir al-Mu'mineen, are the very same people who started to oppose the Imam. Take, for example, the companion Hujr ibn Adi. Everyone knows Hujr ibn Adi. They say if you don't go for the ziyarah of Hujr in Syria, the ziyarah of Sayyidah Zainab is not accepted. This is Hujr ibn Adi. But when Imam al-Hasan signed that peace treaty, Hujr ibn Adi was one of the first people that came and said, "What have you done? Imam, what have you done? All the work that we did by the side of your father fighting against Muawiyah, why have you signed this peace treaty with Muawiyah?" Another person that came was Ali ibn Hatim al-Ta'i. Everyone knows Hatim al-Ta'i. His son Ali, again a Shia of Ahlul Bayt, and he went one step further. When he met Imam al-Hasan, he addresses him and he says to him, "Assalamu alayka ya mudhill al-mu'mineen." Oh, the one that has humiliated the mu'mineen. They did not understand the actions of Imam al-Hasan to the extent that they, being such great companions, faltered. There was something that was wrong within them, that they faltered because they were unable to understand. They eventually then come back, but that moment of just doubting the Imam is the scariest. Imagine the Imam of our time comes, does something that we don't understand. Just like Imam al-Hasan did at that time. What would we do? Would we be the first to sort of say, but Imam, this doesn't make logical sense to me. Maybe, you shouldn't have done it this way. Because everything, sort of, we try and dissect Islam, right? Get it? Try and make it easier for ourselves. Or, this doesn't make sense. Why does this man just say that the moon is here? There's only one moon. Why have we got Eid and 4? This is our ignorance. This is our ignorance. This is not our advanced thought. What do we need? We don't need managers. We can do the taqleed of the Imam. Again, our ignorance, not our advanced thought or our opened mind. No. It is the further cementing of our own ignorance. Because we believe ourselves to know better than the Imams. And those that have studied 50, 60 years. But me, 1 year, 2 years. Read a couple of books. A couple of really bad English translations. Downloaded a few books, a couple of PDFs, I've got them on my phone. I become alim. A couple of books of Mullah Sadr, I think I understand them. I'm alim. But all of these things aside, see these people at that time, such staunch companions, but yet they faltered. But Imam al-Hasan, I don't want to go into the details of the treaty, what led to the treaty, what were the conditions of the treaty. That is something that we should all already know. We've been hearing it for what? I've heard it for 27 years of my life. We should all know it by now, right? Everybody should know all the conditions that Imam al-Hasan put down and why Imam al-Hasan went into the peace treaty with Muawiyah. Anyhow, another person comes to Imam al-Hasan, and at this point Imam understands, explains his situation. This person says, Imam, why did you do this? I'm not going to leave this place until you tell me why did you go and do this. The Imam replies that, am I not the Hujjah of Allah upon the earth? Was it not the hadith of my grandfather that Hassan and Hussein are Imams, be they standing or be they sitting? He said, yes. He said, then you should know that my example is like that of Khizr. My example is like that of Khizr. What was that example? Everybody's read the story within the Quran. Hazrat Musa is sent to Khizr. And as Khizr does a number of actions, he makes a hole in the boat, he kills the child, and he rebuilds the wall. And Musa, ignorant of the actions of Khizr, begins to question him. Because he doesn't understand the actions of Khizr. Imam al-Hasan is saying, my example is like that of Nabi Khizr. That I did an action, the people did not understand it, and they began objecting to it. And then he puts it into plain terms. He said, had I not signed this treaty with Muawiyah, there would not be a single Shia left on the face of the planet. And there is the answer to the first statement that I made at the start of the lecture. That we owe everything to Imam al-Hasan. The fact that we are sitting here, the fact that we remember Karbala, the fact that we remember Nabil, the fact that we remember any of the Imams comes down to this treaty that Imam al-Hasan signed with Muawiyah. If he had not signed that treaty, then none of us would be sitting here in the capacity of the followers or the Shias of Ahlul Bayt as we are today. And maybe this is why the Holy Prophet of Islam, when referring to Imam al-Hasan in his hadith, he says that he is aql, he is intellect manifest. It's a very beautiful hadith. The Holy Prophet of Islam starts off, he says, لَوْ كَانَ حِلْمٌ سُورَةً أَوْ رَجُلًا لَكَانَ عَلِيًّا. That if forbearance, if patience was to manifest in the form of a man, it would manifest as Ali ibn Abi Talib. And then he said, لَوْ كَانَ حُسْنُ حَيْبَةً لَكَانَ فَاطِمَةً. That if the greatness and azama and haiba was to manifest as a person, it would have manifested as Hazrat Fatima to Zahra. Salawatullah wa salamu alayha. This is لو كان حياء سورة أو رجلا لكان الحسين. That if chastity was to manifest as a person, then it would manifest into Abu Abdullah. And then finally he says, لو كان عقل صورة أو رجلا لكان الحسن. That if aql, if intellect had manifested itself as a person, it would have manifested itself as Hassan. That was the thought of Imam al-Hasan. So we know why Imam al-Hasan signed the treaty. We know why they were trying to remove this title. I can quote from the books of the other brothers and justify my point. So what? So what? I understood a bit of history. So what? What can I tangibly take from the life of Imam al-Hasan? Reading the stories and the tariq and the history is fine. But implementing the teachings of Ahlul Bayt was the reason that they came. They were the reasons that they were sent to the earth. So what can I take from the life of Imam al-Hasan that I can walk away from this lecture and say, yes, these points I have learnt from Imam al-Hasan and I will implement them within my life. And to help us along this, I've taken a hadith. The opening hadith under the chapter of Imam Hasan within the book Tuhf al-Uqul. This is a lengthy hadith. It's a conversation between Amir al-Mu'mineen and Imam Hasan. This conversation is a question and answer. Amir al-Mu'mineen is asking the questions, Imam al-Hasan is replying. Amir al-Mu'mineen is asking the questions, Imam al-Hasan is replying. Yeah, there's loads. I've selected 4 or 5 of them that we can inshallah try and implement within our lives and see if we can analyze them a little bit further in the time that we have. The first question that Amir al-Mu'mineen asked him, he says, Ma as-sidad? He goes, what is nobility and grandeur? What is nobility and grandeur within? Imam al-Hasan replies, well, yeah, everybody wants nobility. We want that respect, that sort of grandeur. Some of us try and get it, you know. Others try and force it out of other people. Some people actually get it for their personalities and the way they are. But Imam al-Hasan is giving us the formula of how to get that nobility, that grandeur, that azama. And how do we gain it? The Imam says, Def'ul munkiri bil ma'roof. Def'ul munkiri bil ma'roof. Doing good in order to stay away from the evil. Or leaving the sin for good. It's different. It's a different way of putting it. If you analyze what the Imam has said, it's different. We generally, what do we say? We generally have this perception, or we hear, or we try and understand that stay away from sin and do good. They're the two separate entities. Stay away from sin, do good. No, the Imam is saying it's the other way round. The Imam is saying that busy yourself in so much good that you have no time for sin. So beautiful, so easy. Busy yourself in good so that you have no time to sin. And how do I busy myself in good? Without plugging the presentation that Brother Musa gave, by doing good, by getting involved, by being surrounded by people who are constantly speaking about Islam, religion is not uncool. You know, you think, oh God, he's not there, you know anything to talk about religion all the time. Yeah? Oh, we can have a laugh as brothers as well. It doesn't mean that we've got to swear to have some fun or listen to some music to have some fun. Not in the school of Ahlul Bayt at least. Why not? It's as simple as that. Music's haram. All the mainstream rubbish that we have is haram. And there's other things that the Maraja also go into. And then you can look into your own margin. But there are ways of getting involved in doing good such that you don't have the chance to do sin. For example, when we go on ziyarah, whenever someone's gone to Sham, inshallah when Sham is once again open for the Za'irin, but Iraq or you've gone to Iran or somewhere, and you've gone as a Za'ir, what is the only thing on your mind? It's the haram of the Imam. You don't think about anything else. And people often say, yeah, I had that sense of spirituality, that sense of being close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, there is an innate spirituality there. But most of it is from ourselves. Because we choose to stay away from the sin. We choose to stay away from doing sin. So as a result, we nurture that feeling of spirituality within ourselves. By keeping good company, by our friends that speak about Islamic topics, speak about something about religion. Someone who's not going to, doesn't constantly have to be speaking about religion, but someone who's not going to openly commit haram. Or someone who's not going to invite us towards haram. If my friends are the ones that are you're gonna send me a YouTube link and say, check this track out now. Sick track. Yeah? Those are the friends I don't want to keep. If my friends are the ones that are going to post YouTube videos on my Facebook wall, on music, and I'm going to sit there and listen to it and like it, those aren't the friends I need to have. Because those are the friends that are taking me away from doing good. Those are the friends that are taking me towards sin. If my friends are the ones that are going to encourage me to go to a club, I definitely don't need to have them around. By keeping good friends, by keeping good company, we can engulf ourselves in doing good acts and staying away from sin. The second thing that the Imam asks, Imam Hasan, Amir al-Mu'mineen asks Imam Hasan, he says, what is chivalry in? Chivalry. What is chivalry in? We often hear it said, especially by sisters, chivalry is dead. And this is usually associated with the brothers. There ain't no gentleman left. Chivalry is dead. And everyone, brothers want to be chivalrous, right? But be known as someone who is chivalrous. So how do we become chivalrous according to the second Imam? The Imam says, Al-Ifaf wa Islamu mar'in mala, that you become chivalrous through chastity and by purifying your assets, your mal, your money. Look at this in a little bit of depth. Chastity, by being chaste, by controlling your desires or channeling them in a halal way, such that I'm not committing haram. In the society that we live in, the concept of chastity is out the window. But our Imams, in fact there is a narration from the seventh Imam, he says that our Shi'as are the ones who the honorable women bear witness to their chastity. Our Shi'as are the ones who the honorable women bear witness to their chastity. That this is a good person, this is a good guy. It's not a brother who, you'll know. The first point is the one of chastity. If a person wants to become chivalrous, chastity, by either controlling the desire or channeling it in a way that is halal. The second thing that the Imam says is purifying the deeds, purifying the assets, the mal that a person has. Is our money halal? Did I earn? If you take it into the depth of whether things are halal and haram, I'm getting paid to do a job. Am I slacking at that job? Am I taking an hour when I'm only allowed 15 minutes break? Well, I managed to wing an hour somehow. But my role is to only have a 15-minute break and work the rest of the time. Is that money in that 45 minutes halal? I'm supposed to be working 9 hours and I have a job to do. But when no one's looking, go on the internet, have a quick browse, mess around. I have a job, I'm getting paid for a job, someone is paying me for a job. That 15, 20 minutes, when I divert from that job, is that money halal for me? See, it's in that much depth. I'm working certain hours a week, but I'm writing that I'm working less hours a week towards HMRC, so that I can top up the family tax credit or the income support or whatever else there is. That's money that I'm gaining by lying. Is that money halal for me? Is that money helping me towards nobility? I'm not really disabled, but I know a doctor who's a mate. Sign me off disabled. Get a bit of disability living around, although they're cutting that as well. Disability living around. Got a disabled badge. Taking the rights of someone else. Is that money halal? It's not. So nobility is within purifying the assets, and if you want a practical example of whether money is halal or not and the effect of it, then look towards Karbala. The Imam is standing in front of them. He's given khutbah after khutbah. He's gone and addressed this, each and every one of them, or at least the main people from amongst them. And then at the end he says, why will you not heed my words? And he says, I know why you won't heed my words, because within your stomach is the food of haram. That doesn't mean that they were out eating pork. No, that means that they were taking money from Baytul Mal, or that they had grown up during the time of the third Khalifa, and they might have been from the family of Marwan, and they were gaining loads of stuff from Baytul Mal which they had no right over, and they were eating that, they were giving it to their children. Those children then grew up with a spiritual block that stopped them from being able to recognize the Imam, that inevitably led them to kill the Imam. That's the practical example. That money that I'm gaining through unlawful means, and it's mixing with my lawful money, and then I'm feeding my children, my family, feeding myself. I'm creating that spiritual barrier that will stop me from recognizing the Imam of my time. It's as simple as that. The third thing that Amir al-Mu'mineen asks Imam Hasan, he says, my son, ma'al ghafla, what is inattentiveness? The state of ghafla, we always hear about it. It's a spiritual state and a physical state. What is ghafla? Imam Hasan replies, تركك المسجد وطاعتك المفسد. That ghafla is leaving the masjid. Leaving the masjid and obeying an open sinner. And listening to an open sinner. Now, it must be highlighted that there is a fundamental difference between a Husayniyah, between an Imam Bargah, and a masjid. The spiritual benefit that you gain from a masjid can only be gained from there. You cannot gain it from the Husayniyah. Yes, Husayniyah has its level. But you can come into the Husayniyah without wudu. You can eat within the Husayniyah. You can talk within the Husayniyah. You can drink within the Husayniyah. You can sleep within the Husayniyah. But within the masjid, somewhere that has had the siga of the masjid recited on it, you can't sleep in the masjid unless in the state of i'tikaf. You can't eat in the masjid, drink in the masjid unless in the state of i'tikaf. Talk about worldly affairs, not allowed to do that within the masjid. So leaving the masjid, I don't know if you have a masjid, it's very rare. A lot of Husayniyas are out there. You have a masjid? This is masjid. MashaAllah. Okay, so you have a masjid. The spirituality of a masjid is different, and the adab of a masjid are totally different. Because we can't allow our kids to be running up and down if we've got a certain area which we say this is masjid. We can't let our kids start running up and down, having marathons around the masjid. This is reserved for the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's that one. The one that leaves the masjid, that removes himself from the masjid, will enter into a state of ghafla. The second thing that the Imam says is the one that obeys a mufsid, a person that spreads fasad upon the earth or within a community. Someone who we know is spreading fasad within a community, is breaking the community apart. That person is mufsid. and listening to him and listening to what he has to say and obeying what he has to say or what he tells us to do will lead us to the state of ghafla. And there's many examples that you could all think of. Then the Imam moves on, he says, what is generosity, my son? Imam Hasan replies that generosity is to give generously, both in ease and difficulty, both in poverty and in wealth. It's very easy to give when life's easy. It's easy to give when I've got a few, when I'm wealthy. Sometimes that's the easy option. When I'm wealthy, I don't need to get involved. I've got too much money. I'll give £20, £100, £150, guys. Someone else will deal with it and actually get involved if their hands dirty. Sometimes giving money in our society is the easy way. But generosity is to give both in ease and in difficulty, both when you're poor and when you're wealthy. There's no difference. And it doesn't just mean money. It means to give out, anything. Someone comes to your door, ask them to come in, giving them a cup of tea, making someone feel welcome, a guest. It's all generosity. Sometimes you think, oh my God, guest, why did you call them round? I didn't call them round. Why did they don't? Oh, wasn't that what we're going to do? And we'll get inside the house. Oh God, sorry. We'll get someone turned up at our house. We'll go, oh my God, someone turned up at the house. And sort of try and talk to them from the door. Yes. No, I mean, yeah. Sort of closing the door on them as well. This is not generosity. And the brothers call their friends out, the wives in the back going, what are you doing? I'm making tea for all of these lot. Are you serious? I'm only making it once. This is generosity. Only making it once. After that, I ain't making it once. Make yourself. And don't make any noise because I'm going to sleep. Generosity is not just giving wealth, it's giving your time. It's welcoming people into your homes, welcoming them into your life. This is generosity. Both in the times when times are easy, when they are hard, when you're wealthy, when you're poor. Then Amir al-Mu'mineen asks, he says, my son, tell me, what is wealth? What is our understanding of wealth? I want to perceive our understanding of wealth. Someone might say, having some dough, is a proper money. Yeah? That's wealth, right? That's probably not even, yeah. Yeah, that's proper wealth. Yeah? That's our perception. Although maybe we go one step further, we're not so material. We say health is wealth. Yeah? That's what health is wealth. As long as I'm healthy, that's my What does the Imam say? Imam Hasan says, my father, wealth is fondness in taqwa, having a fondness towards taqwa, having fondness towards being conscious of Allah, and having zuhd in the dunya, having that self-control, that self-denial in the sense that there are certain things that are halal for you, but they're not taking you towards Allah, so you remove yourself. Zuhd is a high level of taqwa. You remove yourself from that self-denial, that self-discipline, the discipline that you will wake up without an alarm clock for Fajr, the discipline that you will wake up every night without fail for Salatul Layl, that you will fast Mondays and Thursdays, mustahab fast. That discipline, that's zuhd. The Imam says true wealth is having that love for taqwa, actually loving having that consciousness of Allah, not thinking, oh, it's not. We're going somewhere, someone says, look, we're going somewhere. We're going to go somewhere when we're at work sometimes, right? We've got a work do, we're going to go out to the pub. And sometimes I apologetically say, no, sorry, I can't go, I'm Muslim, it's against my religion. And we sort of apologize for being Muslim, first thing. And then at the back of my mind, I think, oh man, it would have been a love going there. Yeah, I can't be religion. Yeah? So, oh man, great, I could have gone to the school prom. Well, my dad didn't let me because he says it's haram. Having fondness of God consciousness is when a person becomes absolutely content and enjoys every aspect of his ubudiyyah, of his servitude towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is wealth according to Imam Hasan. That having that fondness in taqwa and having that zuhd in the dunya, that everything is available for you, even those things that are halal, you still abstain from them because they won't take you necessarily towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is zuhd. That is true wealth. Can we implement the teachings of this Imam within our life? Of this madloom Imam within our life? Can we bring about that? And how patient was this Imam? We often come across certain times in our life where we don't understand things about our religion. So we question Allah, we question our Imam. But can we have the patience of Imam Hasan such that we won't even question our Imam? And how patient was Imam Hasan? They say that when the poison of Juhda was coursing through his body and it began taking effect within his body. Previous to this, the books narrate that Imam Hasan had been poisoned 4 times. And all 4 times they had not succeeded. But this 4th poison that Muawiyah had sent was so powerful that all of a sudden, as the Imam drank it, within moments the color drained from his face. The Imam began to vomit and it attacked his liver. That when the Imam began to vomit, parts of his liver were coming out. He summoned his family surround him. And the Imam is breathing his last, going through all of that pain and suffering. Abu Abdullah, seeing his brother in this state, begins to weep, begins to cry. Imam al-Hasan, look at the patience of Imam al-Hasan. He forgets about everything that is happening to him. He turns to his brother Hussein, he says, "Oh Hussein, do not cry, because your day, there is no day like your day, oh Abu Abdullah. There is no day like your day, oh Imam al-Hussein," as if Imam al-Hasan was saying to his brother that, "Oh Hussein, yes, the poison that I have taken is giving me pain, but not as much as those wounds that will be upon your body on the plains of Karbala. Yes, Hussein, 70 arrows will be struck into my coffin, will be struck into my body as you are going to bury me next to the Holy Prophet. But Hussein, there will be nothing compared to the arrows that have struck your body in such that when you fall from your horse, you are neither on the ground nor within the sky." Hussein was perched upon the arrows. Imam Hasan is saying that, "Oh Hussein, why are you crying? I have family around me, but there in Karbala, you will be all alone. There will be no one by your side. Zainab will be up till the Zainabiyya. Shimmer will be upon your chest, oh Hussein, and the only one to cry out for you will be Zainab. Oh Hussein, it is true that you will give me Husn twice and you will give me Kafan twice. But oh Hussein, in Karbala, your body will lie upon the plains of Karbala with no one to give you Husn and Kafan for 3 days. And not even that, Hussein, they will trample your bodies with the horses' hooves." Abu Abdullah lies upon the plains of Karbala. They summon the horses to come and run over, trample over the body of Abu Abdullah, such that